The galaxy was vast, a tapestry of star systems bound together by an uneasy coalition of advanced civilizations. Each species contributed something unique: technology, resources, or military prowess. Among them, the Galactic Commandos stood as the coalition's elite force, an interspecies unit forged through rigorous trials and lauded for their unmatched skill in combat. They were the standard by which all military forces were measured. For years, Earth had been a reluctant member of the coalition, its integration met with skepticism and derision. To the galactic elite, humanity was primitive, barely out of its infancy in space travel, clinging to outdated concepts of warfare and relying on tactics suited for an age-long past. The Galactic Commandos embodied this disdain, their arrogance unshaken by the occasional rumors of human military achievements. During a routine wargames debrief, the Commandos sat in their barracks, reviewing holographic projections of recent matches. Laughter echoed as they analyzed one-sided victories against lesser-trained coalition forces. A towering Zarklon, their captain, gestured to the display, where a small contingent of Earth's forces had been effortlessly outmaneuvered. "This," he said, his voice dripping with mockery, "is the best they can offer? Humans are so predictable. They cling to their outdated notions of bravery and cunning, thinking it can match technology and precision." The others nodded in agreement, their varied forms shifting with amusement. A Trelvian strategist, known for its three-part brain, added, "Their so-called special forces rely on brute determination. Admirable, perhaps, but woefully inefficient." The conversation escalated, each commando sharing exaggerated tales of humanity's failures. It wasn't long before the room buzzed with overconfidence, their superiority complex feeding off one another. For the Galactic Commandos, Earth was a joke, its soldiers unworthy of even basic respect. But not everyone shared their amusement. Representatives of the coalition's leadership, tired of the Commandos' unchecked arrogance, watched from an adjacent observation room. Among them was a Zetharian diplomat, who raised a brow as the Commandos dismissed Earth's SAS, Special Air Service, with particular scorn. "The SAS," the Zarklon captain continued, "is nothing more than an outdated relic. They're infamous for their stealth and adaptability, but such skills are irrelevant in modern warfare. Against us, they wouldn't last a single engagement." The Zetharian diplomat leaned closer to a fellow observer, a human representative who remained stoic amidst the insults. "I believe it's time we put these boasts to the test," the Zetharian murmured. Within hours, the announcement was made. A high-stakes training exercise was to be conducted, pitting the Galactic Commandos against a single representative from Earth. The rules were simple: capture the flag, simulated urban environment, non-lethal engagement. The Commandos laughed at the proposition, finding it almost insulting. "Only one human," the captain sneered. "Send 10 if you like. It will make no difference." The coalition leaders ignored the bravado. Somewhere on Earth, a quiet call was made. A single operative was chosen for the task, an SAS veteran known only by the codename Ghost. The landing craft touched down without ceremony, its metallic hull gleaming under the artificial lights of the simulated urban arena. The Galactic Commandos stood waiting in formation, their confidence evident in every movement. Their armor reflected a rainbow of alien alloys, and their advanced weaponry hummed with latent energy. From the craft's ramp descended a lone figure, clad in simple tactical gear. The SAS Operative, codenamed Ghost, moved with deliberate calm, their face obscured by a matte black visor. Unlike the Commandos, Ghost carried no high-tech weaponry, just a standard-issue rifle, a combat knife, and a few pouches of nondescript gear. The Commandos exchanged glances, their disbelief quickly giving way to derisive laughter. "This is what they send," one of them jeered, a hulking Berlaxian whose 4 arms flexed as if to emphasize the mismatch. "A single human with barely a toy to fight with?" The captain stepped forward, a toothy grin spreading across his reptilian face. "Are you here to surrender already, Earthling? We'll give you the chance to save yourself the humiliation." Ghost said nothing. They simply adjusted their equipment, the motion precise and deliberate. The silence unsettled some of the junior commandos, but their captain dismissed it as arrogance. A holographic drone floated between the two sides, projecting the mission parameters. The battlefield was a sprawling urban environment with multiple levels, filled with narrow alleys, open courtyards, and abandoned structures. The goal: locate and secure the opposing team's flag while defending your own. A clock ticked down, signaling the start of the exercise. As the countdown approached 0, the commandos were already strategizing aloud. "Split into 3 squads," the captain ordered. "Overwhelm them with speed and precision. 1 squad defends, the rest hunt." The timer hit 0. Ghost moved before the sound of the signal faded, slipping into the shadows without a sound. The commandos hesitated, momentarily caught off guard by the operative's sudden disappearance. Then, as planned, they divided and began their search, confident their advanced scanners and superior numbers would locate their target quickly. Minutes passed, and the commandos' initial bravado began to waver. Their scanners, designed to detect life signatures, electromagnetic activity, and even heat differentials, yielded nothing. "Their gear must be malfunctioning," one of them grumbled, tapping the side of their helmet. "It's not the gear," muttered another, a Trelvian whose analytical mind was racing. "They're masking their presence somehow. But how?" Meanwhile, Ghost was moving through the environment with surgical precision. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate. The operative used the terrain to their advantage, slipping through tight spaces and scaling walls that would have been impassable for the bulkier commandos. The first trap was set quickly and with minimal resources, a simple tripwire rigged to a smoke canister. When one squad triggered it, the ensuing cloud obscured their vision and set off their proximity alarms. Panic ensued as they fired wildly into the smoke, only to find themselves neutralized by precise strikes from unseen angles. In the commandos' comms, the captain's voice growled with frustration. "Regroup. Do not underestimate this human. They're toying with us." Ghost, as always, remained silent, methodically preparing for the next encounter. The commandos regrouped, their earlier confidence eroding under the weight of an enemy they couldn't see. The urban environment, once thought to favor their superior technology, had become a labyrinth of dangers. The captain barked orders, demanding tighter formations and greater vigilance, but the unease in their ranks was palpable. Ghost observed from a high vantage point, concealed among the shadows of crumbling structures. The operative noted the commandos' movements, their impatience, and their predictable reliance on technology. They were accustomed to overwhelming opponents with brute force and advanced tools, not to facing an adversary who exploited their every misstep. One squad moved into a narrow alley, their multi-spectrum scanners sweeping for any trace of the human. Ghost had anticipated this. The operative had set a series of small, improvised devices along the path, simple distractions designed to mislead rather than harm. A faint burst of heat registered on the commandos' sensors, drawing them deeper into the alley. "Target detected," one of them shouted, raising a weapon. They advanced cautiously, weapons ready, only to trigger a silent alarm Ghost had rigged. The operative, now repositioned, unleashed a calculated strike. A flash grenade detonated, disorienting the squad. Ghost moved with lethal precision, neutralizing each commando with swift, non-lethal blows before vanishing once more. The captain cursed over the comms. "Stop splitting up. Form a perimeter and flush them out. This human is not a ghost. They bleed, and they will fall." But doubt had already crept into the commandos' minds. Ghost wasn't just an enemy, they were a force of nature, turning the commandos' strengths into weaknesses. Their reliance on advanced tracking systems proved futile as Ghost used basic countermeasures, thermal cloaks, reflective materials, and decoys, to mislead them. Another squad encountered what appeared to be a hastily abandoned camp. A cooking pot sat over a small fire, and human footprints led away from the site. Thinking they had found their quarry, they followed the trail, only to realize too late it was an elaborate ruse. Ghost had doubled back, ambushing them from above and neutralizing the squad before they could react. The Trelvian strategist, now leading the defensive squad around their flag, began to piece together Ghost's approach. "They're exploiting our overconfidence and using the environment as a weapon. We need to adapt or we'll lose this exercise." The captain's voice was sharp. "Adapt how? They're a single human. They're not fighting us head-on," the Trelvian snapped. "They're dismantling us one by one, and we're letting them." Even as the Trelvian spoke, Ghost was preparing the final phase of their plan. The defensive squad guarding the flag had fortified their position with overlapping fields of fire and sensor grids. But Ghost didn't attack directly. Instead, the operative created chaos, setting off a chain of minor explosions across the perimeter. The noise and confusion forced the squad to reposition, opening gaps in their defense. When the smoke cleared, the flag was gone. The commandos realized too late that they had been outplayed. The sirens blared across the arena, signaling that Ghost had captured the commandos' flag. The remaining forces scrambled, desperation driving their every move. The captain, now visibly enraged, ordered all units to converge on the human. "They're carrying the flag. Cut them off and end this." But Ghost had anticipated this response. Using the labyrinthine urban environment to their advantage, they moved with precision, always staying one step ahead. The operatives set more traps along the escape route, not to incapacitate but to mislead. Smoke canisters and sound decoys created the illusion of movement in multiple directions, forcing the commandos to spread out again despite the captain's furious demands for cohesion. The captain, now leading a squad himself, pursued one of the false trails, convinced he was closing in. His scanners picked up a faint heat signature, and he charged ahead, only to find himself in an empty alley. A single item lay on the ground, a piece of the flag, torn deliberately and left as bait. He growled, realizing too late that he had been lured away from the real escape route. Meanwhile, Ghost moved silently through a series of abandoned buildings, carefully avoiding detection. The operative carried the flag with one hand, the other ready to deploy tools or weapons at a moment's notice. The route to the extraction point was not a straight line. It was a carefully plotted course designed to exploit the commandos' weaknesses and lead them into dead ends. The Trelvian strategist, still guarding their own flag in a vain hope of retaliation, analyzed the situation with growing dread. "This isn't just strategy," they muttered to the remaining defenders. "This is psychological warfare. They're not just trying to win, they're dismantling our confidence." The defenders, now reduced to a skeleton crew, barely had time to process the statement before Ghost appeared in their midst. The operative had returned to the defensive position, bypassing all security measures with calculated precision. In a flurry of motion, the remaining commandos were neutralized, their flags seized as Ghost disappeared once again into the shadows. The captain's voice came over the comms, strained and desperate. "Do not let them extract both flags. Do you hear me? Regroup now." But the commandos were scattered, their cohesion shattered by Ghost's relentless assault. One by one, their remaining forces fell, until only the captain stood between Ghost and total victory. The final confrontation took place in a dimly lit courtyard, the extraction point within sight. The captain, towering and heavily armed, squared off against the much smaller figure of Ghost. "You think this is over?" he snarled, raising his weapon. Ghost didn't respond. They moved with deadly precision, closing the distance in a blur of motion. The captain's advanced weaponry was useless in the confined space as Ghost used the environment to disarm and disable him. A final, calculated strike left the captain on the ground, his weapon clattering uselessly to the side. The sirens blared again, signaling Ghost's victory. The simulated battlefield went dark, leaving the commandos in stunned silence. Ghost stood at the extraction point, both flags secured, and then turned away without a word, disappearing into the shadows as the exercise ended. In the observation room, the coalition leaders watched in silence. The Zetharian diplomat finally spoke, breaking the tension. "Perhaps we should reconsider underestimating humanity."